Floodgate family. Thanks so much for joining in and listening to this edition of Leadership Live. And I'm excited and just honored to have Kira Rupprecht, CEO of Reapplix, to join us and, really impart her wisdom, lessons, everything. So Kira, thank you so much, first and foremost. I've been lucky enough to get to know you, spend time together, but not everyone listening and watching has been as lucky. So tell us a little bit about yourself and, of course, all the amazing stuff you're doing at Reapplix right now.
Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate being here on Leadership Live. So first of all, a little bit about myself. So I'm actually from Guatemala in Central America, and I moved to California when I was 12. So I really feel that being part of two cultures, two countries has kind of shaped who I am. And really, I found that even in my career, I've always looked for opportunities where I could work across countries, across cultures, and kind of bring those things together, what to adapt, what to keep, and kind of work across countries. So that's a little bit of who I am. I started out in finance, JP Morgan Chase, and then I switched over to healthcare and never looked back because I just find that, working on products that I know are having direct impact on patients is really something that I love to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Joe, talking about making direct impact on patients, tell us a little bit about Reapplix and what you guys are doing to healing patients there.
Yeah, so at Reapplix, we're really fortunate because we're bringing a whole new category to market. It's bringing a fully autologous product. So we take the patient's blood and nothing else, and we create a patch that can then go on to heal the patient's wound. So the patient is literally healing themselves. And that's really very powerful. So we love what we do and just the opportunity to partner with clinicians to bring something completely new that can change wound care and at the end bring new outcomes to patients.
That's awesome. Yeah, really cool having that autologous solution where patients are able to heal themselves. I'm going to be asking Kira a lot of questions, guys, but you have a chance. So just in the comment box, whether it's below or to the side, put a comment in there. Question pops up. I'm going to take them at the end of this interview here, so you'll have a chance to ask questions as well. Now, I'm curious, you've had a lot of different experiences. You came with the finance side, seen leadership there. But what do you think attributes are for a good leader in this unique med device or med tech space? What do you think it takes?
So I would really focus on three things. First of all, purpose. Second of all, focus on winning every day. And third, connection. So if I kind of just explain a little bit what I mean, purpose, when we are able to connect the purpose of what we're doing to our own personal values. And that's what I try to do is, what is important to me and how do I connect that to the purpose of what we're doing in healthcare? That is really such a powerful connection. And when we do that, we can achieve anything, right? Because now we know what we're trying to do and how important it is for us personally. Once you have that, then I think it's really focus on winning and do that every day, right? So you have to have the big picture in mind. How do we win in this marketplace? And then translate that to where you focus your time and energy. We make decisions every day on how we spend our time and what we pay attention to. So focus on what's going to be important to win and, focus on the one thing every day that moves you closer to your goal. Yeah. And then thirdly, connection, right? We don't do anything amazing on our own. Everything is through working with the team and building connection and trust, both with internally, right? The team that's going to help us to win, and very importantly with customers. What's the connection and that trust that we're building with our customers? And so those are really the three things that I think help us to stand out and succeed in this space.
Yeah, no, that's some really great examples. I love it. You kind of start with that purpose, or Simon Sinek's why is always what I think of, right? That classic, why do you do this? What does it take to win doing that? But realize it's not just you, it's that connections of getting other people. And a word that I loved you said is trust, right? That speed of trust. And that's a crucial factor. How do you create that, and creating that with an organization and then out externally your organization? I think really well said on that. Now, I'm sure in your leadership, you never made any mistakes, right? Never had anything at all. I'm kidding. But I'm sure there's lessons actually that you've had to learn the hard way. So to help people here, what are some examples that you could give so they might not have to learn those lessons that way?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've really developed understanding along my career is just that strategy is not enough, right? So you can have the best product, the best plan, but really without the best culture on how do you win and the team to win, like making sure that everybody on the team is contributing their best, that's how you win. And so I've really, I think, transitioned over time. Of course, strategy continues to be very important, but really such an important focus on building the right culture in your team and making sure that you personally are having the right behaviors and attitudes, and that you are spreading that that kind of culture, that kind of attitude to all those around you, right? Because that's really what enables you to win in the end.
Yeah, no, I think some of my military friends will say no good plan survives first contact, right? So having that right attitude and the right people, so when the strategy you're starting to implement doesn't go as planned, they're able to adjust and stay kind of push it forward. Yeah, you're exactly right. Having that context of people with the right attitude, which kind of goes back to your earlier point, right? They know the why, they know what it takes to win, individually as well as and then working collectively. So yeah, it totally makes sense. You talked about having great people. So one of I've found is, there's always high performers in the organization, right? And making sure they're developing to that next step. How do you do that? How do you, develop those really high performers and keep them engaged in your organization?
So high performers are generally pushing you as it is, right? So it's really about kind of making sure that they have the right challenge ahead of them all the time, so that you're really maximizing their opportunity to perform. I find that high performers, they already have a very high bar for themselves. So what you have to do is set the challenge ahead of them, make sure that that path to success, at least the end goal, is really clear of what we're trying to achieve. And then that you're fully invested in their success as their leader, right? And so what do I mean by that? It's really having that open door dialogue anytime when they need you. It's making sure you're giving them feedback when you see things that can be improved. And very importantly, and I think this is maybe sometimes underestimated, that you're asking for feedback as their leader. What are the things that you can better do to set them up for success? And that can be challenging because you can hear some things that sometimes you don't want to hear or that are a little bit tough. But really, when you want high performers to perform at their best, you have to be willing to not only give feedback, but receive feedback and be very open to listen to what can help them to improve and to just succeed beyond their wildest dreams, right? So open up the door for that kind of feedback that can help everybody to be better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I kind of heard you saying, you said that they're going to be pushing you, so give them the challenge, right? Give them the challenge to stretch themselves, support them along the way, any way you can. And, I think that feedback part you mentioned earlier is creating trust in that connection, right? And usually if you're willing to receive feedback and adapt and listen, that probably helps that trust quotient you talked about and creating that connection. And there's nothing, you connect with your high performers and you guys are on that level of trust, it just makes that organization that stronger, I would imagine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Love it.
Hey guys, please put a comment in the box if you've got questions that kind of arise or wondering about Kira's background or Reapplix or anything. Please put in the comments. We're going to take those at the end. Now, here's one that's near and dear to my heart, is finding and evaluating new talent. Because you mentioned before, it isn't strategy. A lot of times it's the people. So what have you found works for you?
Well, first of all, I'm really fortunate to have great leaders on my leadership team who are experienced in their own right in finding talent. So I definitely won't take credit of being the talent finder for our organization, because I really rely on them as well to be part of this equation. But together, right, we're really committed to bringing the best talent because we see that as really the key to our success. So we spend a lot of time talking about, what's the the talent we want to bring, what's the right profile, and how do we make sure there's a fit with the kind of winning culture we want to create, right? So back to that culture, it's really important. So we want to make sure that the person coming in is going to be really a great fit for the moment in time and the culture that we're creating. And then I'd say that, great culture is contagious, right? So when people see the passion that we have as our team for what we're doing, how much we believe in what we're building, and how excited we are for bringing this new category to market, I think when anyone comes into touch with anyone in the organization, they should feel excited to come and be part of it. So really, by focusing on having the right internal culture, that's part of the winning strategy, I think, for talent, because anyone these days, the first thing they're going to do is call someone else that they know or find out who else is on the Reapplix team and want to hear what's going on over here and how does it feel to be part of the organization. So by making sure that everybody here is feeling like they're great contributors, they're really a part of what we're building, I really feel that that's going to come through to anyone who's looking to join an exciting new team.
Yeah, I think you bring up something that was really interesting right in the beginning. To create that culture is realizing what your culture is, what fits within your culture, what type of people you need at the current stage your company is, because there's good people, and talent, but they might not fit at certain organizations at certain times. So understanding what that is internally, and then creating that, and then that flywheel kinds of attracts new people. Yep. I think that's a lot of people, want to, hey, this kind of person is great no matter where they are. Not always true. It depends on the certain company and certain person fit. So I think that's a very good point. Now, when you get those great people, and they want to take that next step up and want to be an aspiring leader, because we've got some leaders on this listening, we have some people that want to be. So what would you recommend for those people that, want to maybe sit where you are someday? What would you recommend for them?
So I think the first thing is that for me, being a leader is independent on where you are in the hierarchy, right? So being a leader is an attitude, a behavior. It's how you carry yourself inside an organization. So I would say start out by being a leader today. Right? Make sure your attitude and your behavior is really matching with what's going to enable this company to succeed. And that will be noticed. And that's the first step, no matter what, right? Be a leader today. Don't wait. Show people what a leader looks like. Now, when you're talking about being tapped for that next opportunity, really in terms of a promotion, one of the things that I found throughout my career is just being very observant. Once you understand the strategy of that company to win, so understanding that big picture, be very observant of where there's gaps between what needs to be done and the resources that are available. In most companies, we never have enough people to do the things we want to be doing, right? And so there's always those projects that are kind of left for when we have someone who can work on that. So when you can be observant and just identify something where you feel you can make a difference and there's a gap, just volunteer to help, because they're not going to say no, because there's a need right there, right here and now. And so you do that, of course, in addition to delivering on your current projects. And you're showing, first of all, that you really care about the success of that organization, because you're willing to step up when you see a need and volunteer to help. And second, you're giving your leadership an opportunity to kind of see how you can flex in different areas. Maybe it's something that's not directly related to your current role, but you can show how you can flex and adapt and really kind of showcase your leadership in that regard. So that's one tip that I would give someone who's looking to kind of stand out in an organization.
That's a great example. Be excellent and lead what you do now. And then when you see those opportunities to pick up the mantle and show something different, take the initiative, right? That's what I heard you saying. And a lot of times, it could be your tryouts, for when that opportunity does emerge. So
and I've even seen people develop their own role, right? They start doing something, they're doing a great job, and it actually turns into a role in the future, right? So never underestimate the power of just, starting to take those steps that, if it's moving the company in the right direction and something you can contribute, definitely start today,
Yeah. I think I read something the other day is, people that give value ahead usually get value in return, right? So if you're given value, usually people will recognize it, and and you'll get it in return. So it's an interesting thing. Now, I'd be curious, Kira, as a female CEO that just moved up in leadership, anything you would say to aspiring, female professionals that are looking to, promote? Is there any different attributes or suggestions you would give?
I think it's the same. It's about what matters in leadership. I think women are better sometimes, or, can be more focused on building that connection. So very much in the line of empathy and understanding, what different teammates might need, or how people are perceiving certain things in the organization. So definitely bring that kind of that sense of self. And then I think second, just be yourself. I really encourage anyone at this point is we can't be trying to be somebody we're not. We all need to bring our true self to work. And if you're not in an organization that's enabling you to do that, then maybe that's not the best place for you, right? At this point in time, we should all be able to be ourselves and kind of bring our values, what we bring to the table. So, that is for women or men, but certainly women sometimes need to hear that a little bit more, because they might sit back on certain parts of themselves. And I think, we should absolutely bring ourselves. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I love that. And be ourselves, be authentic, because authentic creates connections. I think something you mentioned earlier, if a strength is empathy for you, leverage it, use that strength, right? To, add value where it is, and, and recognize that strength, and those two kind of play together. And I think you're right. That's true, whether it's a woman in leadership, or men in leadership, or wherever you set, be yourself. So that's great suggestions. I got a few comments, guys. I'm going to take those questions in a moment, but if you have additional questions, please put them in the comment box, whether it's below or on the side, and we'll take those in a moment. This is the last question for you from us that I think will be kind of a fun one for you. Is your favorite superhero and why?
So I'm going to say Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And I can strike a mean Wonder Woman pose. Look at me go.
Yeah, there you go.
And I have a fun fact for you on that.
Okay.
I promised you a fun fact today.
You did? I was waiting for this fun fact, so I'm excited.
Which is, there's actually been a study that when you strike a power pose, even for just 2 minutes before a presentation or an interview, an important moment that can induce stress, that you actually, by just striking that pose for 2 minutes, give yourself more confidence and allow yourself to then have more presence in that interview. And in fact, the study was done in interviews. So that's near and dear to your heart. How do people prepare for an interview? Well, just 2 minutes of striking a power pose right before your interview can actually help you be more confident, be yourself, and kind of bring yourself to the table. So, hey, I might have done a Superwoman post right before this Leadership Live.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. And it sounds like I need to update some of my interviewing training videos to add, your superhero pose for 2 minutes before you get started, right? No,
so
but I read that study actually. It's funny when we did that. I thought of that exact same thing. I've read that study. It's really interesting. And there's also the same one with the pencil. You hold the pencil sideways in your mouth. It forces the smile that your answers become more positive than people that don't. So there's some things that you can do to change your perception physically, to change your mental perception. So, I can go down a rabbit hole on this for, the next 30, 40 minutes. But we have questions to get to. So I'm going to take some of the questions from the FloodGate family here. So let's see what we have. Hey, she's giving you a little shout out there, so that's great, and another appreciation. So it's great she got that. How do you maintain a positive culture, especially during tough moments? Right, it's easy when things are winning, but when it gets tough, it's a great question, Brittany.
So I think that resiliency comes from being really focused on that idea of purpose. And then knowing what it takes to win. But it's really that purpose that's going to carry us forward. When we know why we're doing what we're doing and we connect that to our values, that I think builds a resiliency because we're not going to give up right away on the most important things to us, right? So if it's connected to who you are and your values, you're not giving up on your values and you're not giving up on the things that get you closer to living your values. So that's why I really like to make sure I've personally even focused on, how my values connect to what I'm doing in terms of work, because I find that builds that resiliency. When you need to take a little step back, you've had a tough day, you just kind of go back to, okay, but why am I doing this? And if it's important and I know why I'm doing it, how do I find a different way? And then, connect to others who might have ideas. It goes back to, we can't solve anything totally on our own when it's a big problem to solve. So I also personally just take a moment in that day to just have a good connection with somebody who I appreciate and who I admire, and just try to find different ideas that might come from that.
That's great. That's great. And I usually find those tough moments in mission-driven organizations, they actually rise. The culture rises because they figure out they come together to approach it together with that common mission.
Yeah.
So that's and it's kind of how you started, right? What do you need to be a great leader? Create that why. So here's kind of one kind of similar here. Jamie says, we talk about companies' missions all the time. I love it. Vision drives company culture. So it's more of a comment than a question on that one. But let's see. Sarah's got one here for you. Spoke a little on the importance of receiving feedback. How do you provide constructive feedback to your sales team to drive individual and collective improvement?
So I think it goes back to being really connected to what's the plan we're trying to achieve, and then what are the different coaching opportunities we might have, best practices we want to share. So it starts with that connection and trust, right? And so definitely our sales leader would be the one really directly giving any feedback to the sales team, but it would be focused on, what can we do to help? What can we do to help you to succeed? And I think when we have that genuine, good, that genuine interest in helping that other person to succeed, then you're going to find that feedback, whatever it may be, is going to land really well, because you're truly invested in their success. Right. And so whenever you have tough feedback to give, I think finding your space where you're genuinely connected to why that feedback is going to make a difference and how it's going to help the other person generally helps you to find the right words and connection to make sure that feedback lands well.
Yeah. Comes back to that kind of Stephen Covey concept, is no one cares what you think until they think you care, right? So if they really think that you care about them, this is to better them, they're going to be listening in that true connection and care and trust. And so it needs to start at that foundation. I think that's well said. Absolutely. Another question here. How do you balance your time across all areas of business as CEO? This is a great question, because you're handling multiple things at once.
Yep.
How do you keep that balance? What do you find success?
Yeah, that's one of the toughest things, I think, because things are coming at you, different times, different ways. And so I've recently been thinking a lot about that, is it urgent, right? And is it important? Have you seen that kind of framework, right? Mm-hmm. And just making sure that we're dealing not only with the urgent things, somebody needs an answer today on XYZ, but also setting time aside for those things that are important, that maybe are not, a burning fire, but if you don't spend time on it today, then you're not going to be where you need to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now. So for me, that comes with kind of blocking time in my day or in my week to think about those things. And then also, as a leadership team, we found it's very useful to have leadership offsites where we're very deliberate about those topics that are going to allow us not only to win today, but to set us up for success in the future. And so a lot of like that, those important moments that the leadership team creates, being offsite and just being able to take a step back, is where I feel like that kind of creates that balance in the business of being able to be forward thinking, and then you work from that to operate. The rest is execution, basically. Right.
Yeah. And what's interesting, if you purposely pull yourself away from the urgent, those questions, and don't become the quote unquote easy button, it empowers the people to make those decisions. They've got to be decided, right? So if you're pulled away from, they're going to make the decisions. They're going to feel more empowered, more engaged, more agency, which I find also helps perpetuate the speed of an organization as well. So I think it's a secondary byproduct, right, of focusing on that can't remember the right quadrant, of that concept, and not getting sucked into the other. So that's great. Well, see if there's any other questions. I think we've taken most of the questions here. We have, yep. So if there are questions later that come up, please post them below. We'll be monitoring the feed, and if things come up that we can answer for you, be happy to jump on and kind of respond to that. I hope everyone here has gained to put at least an arrow, maybe two, into their quiver of their career. And Kira, you've been absolute, just amazing to have this interview with, and the time. I know I've learned a lot. And so thank you so much for being part of this.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.